Journalist. Mr. Sean, people always say that you brought war to the world. What do you think about this? Sean. No, I think this is the biggest misunderstanding people have of me. In fact, I am a staunch pacifist. I hope for world peace and am working towards this goal. Keywords of the novel. Arms starting from Middle Eastern hyenas with no pop-ups, arms starting from Middle Eastern hyenas. Download the complete set of TXT, arms starting from Middle Eastern hyenas. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Gun Shop in Baghdad. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Gun Shop in Baghdad, Aerial World. Iraq, Baghdad. This place used to be known as the Hanging Garden and the Pearl of the Middle East, but that's all it used to be. Since the United States launched the shocking Iraq War in 2003, there has been only one name here. Middle East Meat Grinder. Boom. A 60mm shell exploded in front of a slightly dilapidated shop, causing dust to drift down from the eaves. Pooh. Grass. A burly Asian man crawled out from under the table, shaking his head in anger. The dust in the air constantly stimulated his nasal cavity, making him particularly uncomfortable. He fanned his face with his hand and picked up a tattered towel from the side, wiping the table clean with ease. Only then did he nod in satisfaction and casually throw the towel onto a nearby bench. The man's name is Sean O'Connor, or Liang Yi, a Chinese. Of course, he is not a native Chinese, but a traveler. He is a lucky person, a true lucky person. Even if his current situation is very bad, he is still lucky. He was originally a mixed-race Asian living in a beautiful country on earth. His mother was Chinese and his father was Irish. Because his mother was Chinese, he had been instilled with many things about that Eastern country since childhood. Coupled with the national conditions of the beautiful country, he had a beautiful imagination about that Eastern country since childhood, but had no sense of belonging to the beautiful country he grew up in. After growing up, he joined the military for a good salary. He went through layers of selection from an ordinary soldier to become a White SEAL, SEAL Assault Team, and then went through layers of selection to enter the top special forces of the beautiful country, DG. He became an excellent first-level fighter. After retiring from DG, as a first-level fighter, he didn't know anything except killing people. In addition, he didn't have the habit of saving money, and his previous salary was not enough for him to spend money recklessly. Therefore, he joined a large PMC company through the introduction of his former comrades and became an employee. Of course, he was just affiliated and had a legal identity. In many people's words, he was a mercenary. They are war wild dogs, but what sets them apart from mercenaries is that they are legal in most countries around the world. And illegal mercenaries refer to those who have no means, and their combat effectiveness is mostly weak. They spontaneously form an armed team, even without a team, and only receive a task temporarily and finally. They take AK to the battlefield for that pitiful reward, commonly known as cannon fodder. DG. Also known as DevGru or NSWDG, full English name not written, too long, probably you don't want to read, full name Navy Special Operations Research Brigade, also known as SEAL 6 Squadron, commonly known as 6th Squadron, divided into 7 squadrons, namely red, blue, silver, gray, black, green, and gold. Among them, the 4 assault squadrons responsible for direct action operations are red, blue, gold, and silver. The gray squadron is responsible for vehicle transportation and material transportation, while the black squadron is responsible for a series of things such as intelligence reconnaissance. The green squadron is responsible for new personnel training, screening, clear division of labor, high-end configuration, and is the top-tier special operations unit in the beautiful country. Before crossing the border, he was carrying out an assassination mission on the African battlefield. This mission was not endorsed by anyone and was considered a black job, which was not officially assigned by the company. It was an illegal mission. After completing the mission and receiving the final payment, he would die in vain. Of course, such a mission was his daily routine and he had already become accustomed to it. However, their team unfortunately exposed it when they killed the target, and these black guys didn't know where they came from with so many weapons. All kinds of long guns and short cannons joined the battle, and in the end, they all died. Opening his eyes again, he arrived in the Middle East and became an Asian who had just lost both parents. This world is called Blue Star, which is highly similar to the Earth it once lived on, with almost identical world patterns and only slight differences. The original name was Liang Yi, and a family of 3 came to this country 3 years ago to open a restaurant. One day, their parents were blown apart by a shell flying in. Due to the turbulent situation, the Iraqi government symbolically compensated 15,000 Iraqi dinars, equivalent to 83 renminbi and 64 cents. Yes, 2 lives, not even 100 yuan worth it. Since then, the original owner has become a lonely family, and he has become depressed and anxious all day long. Then Sean travels through this turbulent and war-ridden foreign land. He finally makes a decision to close the restaurant and open such a rundown gun shop. Of course, he is not planning to return to his old business. Being a fighter has no means of making money, so he still needs to become a boss. And after crossing over, he had a system, an arms dealer system, but this system lacks intelligence. As a DG level 1 fighter, after retiring, he became a mercenary again. He had not read any online novels, nor did he know what the so-called system was. The only thing known was that this thing can currently only be sold as antiques from World War II and World War I, and corresponding rewards will be given after completing the transaction. That's all. Damn it, do these reactionary forces want to turn Baghdad into ruins to be satisfied? Accompanied by a rough sound of cursing, a Middle Eastern man in a long robe, looking slightly embarrassed, entered the store and sat down on the bench next to Sean, sighing, "Damn it, Sean, why are you still alive?" After crossing over, Sean became his English name. "Fake squid, if you're bored with life, I can send you to see your dear Allah now." Sean angrily pulled out Colt M1911 and fiercely pressed it against the man's head, saying, "Oh no no no, Allah is kind, and I don't think he wants to see me, this murderous demon." The man raised his hands and shook them wildly. Sean withdrew his pistol and said in a dissatisfied tone, "Ahmed, don't forget that you took 2 M1 rifles from me last time, and you still owe me $600. How dare you owe money to an arms dealer? Damn it, if you don't pay me back today, I'll treat you to a bullet." Ahmed waved his hand repeatedly and said, "Hi, my friend, I've made money. I've done a big job, and now I'm all covered in money." As he spoke, he took out a golden watch from his arms and proudly said, "Look at this big gold watch. How's it going? Has it blinded your eyes? $300. Fake. This is Rolex. Classic style, you know what? I put in a lot of effort for him. You told me it's only worth $300. You damn vampire." Ahmed was very dissatisfied and immediately shouted. Sean slammed the table hard and emphasized, "Ahmed, this is Baghdad. It's the famous Middle Eastern meat grinder. Not Milan's fashion capital. Everything here is worthless except for weapons, including your life." Ahmed was taken aback by the words, and after a while, he impatiently grabbed his head and said, "Damn it, you don't need to remind me, Sean. This is my country, my home, and I know exactly what it's going through. You give me $700 for this watch, pay off the debt, and then exchange the remaining money for bullets. I'm going to kick those damn bastards hard." Sean nodded and said he could. He picked up Rolex and casually threw it into the drawer, then walked into the warehouse at the back and grabbed 2 bullets and handed them to the other person. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Black Uncle Who Can't Get Along with Sean. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Black Uncle Who Can't Get Along with Sean. Damn it, you're still so stingy. We're good friends, aren't we? Ahmed complained, slightly dissatisfied when he saw the number of bullets. Listen, it's because we're friends that you were able to take 2 M1 rifles from me last time. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to take anything with you except yourself. Okay, you're right. Ahmad left with a hint of determination in his melancholic gaze. He tried to pretend to be free and easy, but this couldn't conceal his melancholy and despair. Once Iraq, as the world's 4th largest oil-producing country, could be said to be filled with gold, but that was all in the past. Now Iraq is only left with a barrage of bullets and refugees. Sean silently stared at his back for a moment, his face expressionless, his eyes fixed on the wolf, appearing somewhat sinister, with a burning flame of ambition burning inside. This business is not easy to do. In Iraq, which is only 437,000 square kilometers, there are countless arms dealers. Almost all of the world's top arms giants have agents in this country, and mercenaries, government forces, and reactionary forces will purchase weapons and equipment from them. Those isolated arms dealers can only follow and eat some leftovers, and may one day die in a corner without even a body bag. In the Middle East, as long as you have money, you can be the emperor, and money represents everything. And Sean happens to be a lonely family. He doesn't have a big company to rely on, and everything can only rely on himself. The old antiques in his hands are not popular here, and few people are willing to experience the prestige of these antiques with their lives. And Ahmed is a guy who is willing to use his life to experience the antique of World War II. There is no other reason, but because he is poor and cannot even afford bullets, he is not qualified to choose better weapons. So, after going back and forth, the two of them also get to know each other. It is said that this guy used to be a soldier in the 36th Assault Battalion in Iraq. Of course, Sean still has some faith in this. Although this guy is usually not a good person, he is still very poor, and he is so poor that he doesn't smell the same kind of thing on him. But he shuttles back and forth on the battlefield every day, and to this day, he is still very lively and rarely injured. At least they have not seen this guy injured since they met. The 36th Assault Battalion in Iraq is a special forces force with excellent equipment and high combat literacy. It is said that they found the location of the third person of Al-Qaeda. Of course, Sean definitely doesn't want Ahmed to die, not because of any friendship, just a little bit. This guy is currently his only regular client. Sean glanced at the approaching darkness outside and closed the door with a long stick. Remember not to raise your head casually here, as sometimes snipers may not only kill enemies. Sean returned to his room, which was dark and gloomy. There was nothing he could do about it. The light bulb was just a decoration. Except for some important units, most of Baghdad is currently in a state of power outage. Sean lay down on the bed, with a Colt M1911 next to his pillow and a box of ammunition next to the bed. Even when sleeping here, one must always remain vigilant. The night in Baghdad is even more crazy, only cute firearms can give people enough sense of security. Darkness always unleashes the madness in people's hearts more thoroughly. Even if he was on the second floor, he could still hear the roaring of firearms and painful cries from outside, mixed with some laughter. He carefully opened the window and looked out. On the muddy road, a pickup truck was parked crookedly, with several guys wearing colorful clothes and face scarves holding AK in their hands, howling and laughing recklessly. The fallen body on the side was completely unrecognizable, and it could only be inferred from the Dana military boots on their feet that they were government soldiers. The types of individual equipment in Iraq are diverse, and due to the lack of a strong military industry, their weapons and equipment are all purchased from other countries. The sales price of Dana military boots on Amazon or Taobao is around $130, but in Iraq they can be sold for a high price of $300. What concept? It's more than double the price. Here, only money is the truth, but money is also the least valuable thing. Huck, go tidy up and help me take off those Dana army boots. They're a great treasure. With this sound, a black guy rudely pulled off his military boots and ran to the passenger seat to ask for credit. The old pickup truck door let out a groan of unbearable weight, and a thick arm caught the eye first. Then, a strong figure like a cow emerged. If nothing unexpected happens, it will happen now. After getting off the car, this guy scanned around for a while, and then he didn't know if he was crazy or something. Suddenly, he grabbed the AK in his hand and started shooting at rows of second-floor windows. Grass, crazy. Sean quickly rolled back. The bullet hit the window and sparks shot straight from the wall. Although he dodged the opponent's indiscriminate shooting, it also exposed his position. Huck, go upstairs and check. I smelled the smell of debris, found him, and then killed him. As a top special operations expert, Sean certainly wouldn't expose himself due to voyeurism issues, but who would have thought of encountering a mental illness? Coincidentally, Sean didn't expect it either. He just felt extremely unlucky. In his previous life, he failed a mission and died in the hands of Uncle Black, feeling extremely frustrated. Now he has encountered a lunatic again, and the guy across from him is still a group of Uncle Black, which makes him feel very unlucky. Listening to the sound of knocking on the door downstairs, he cursed to himself, quickly picked up the M1911 pistol, pulled over the ammunition box, and took out 2 RGD.33 grenades from inside and stuffed them into his pocket. The RGD.33 hand grenade, an old thing made by the Soviet Union during World War II, has a very anti-human design. It needs to first use one hand to break the safety board to the left, and then use the other hand to hold the grip and pull it down vigorously. At the same time, it rotates counterclockwise when viewed from above, so that the small red dot under the safety board is ready to be fired. Once again, break the safety board over and cover the red dot to put the grenade in a safe state. This thing also made a lot of jokes during World War II, such as some former Soviet soldiers throwing grenades and waiting for a long time. Well, this thing didn't explode at all. Sean arrived at the corner of the stairs and calmly looked at the overwhelmed store door. When it was about to be smashed open, he forcefully pulled open the lid and threw the grenade over. Damn it, grenade. The black guy who bumped in was frightened by the grenade flying towards him, so he quickly grabbed his head and tried to pounce. Boom. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. My brother, you are rich. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. My brother, you are rich. The RGD.33 grenade is filled with 85 grams of TNT explosives inside, and there are 3 to 4 layers of fragments on the outside. Once it explodes, these fragments will instantly fly out like wildflowers. Even if the black guy lies down at close range, he will be killed on the spot. The armed militants following behind him have a look of horror, as if they were stunned on the spot. Sean quickly crawled out of the staircase and knelt down on one knee, aiming at the gun and pulling the trigger, skillfully moving and flowing. Bang 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 bang. 6 rapid shots were fired, and 2 armed militants fell to the sound. They were shot in the chest and died on the spot. After the rapid fire was completed, Sean immediately retracted his body and quickly left the original position to change the magazine. As soon as he retracted, a series of bullets hit his original position, and sawdust flew in. Immediately, a burst of angry curses came from the air. The gunfire temporarily stopped, and the entire gun shop fell into an eerie silence. Sean remained calm and composed in the corner, carefully listening to the footsteps outside. Sean held his breath and hid in the corner, patiently waiting for the prey to come to his door. It was best not to attack rashly at this time, even if the opponent's AK seemed to be about to be scrapped, a bite would still be fatal. Suddenly, a big foot wearing worn-out military boots caught the eye, followed by a black face covered in sweat. Sean grabbed the opponent's neck and forcefully dragged them into the corner, clasping his hands and tightening his arms. The black face turned red as he struggled to make a sound but couldn't lift his strength. He felt his eyelids heavy and had no resistance, and in a few seconds, he was strangled unconscious. Sean's face remained expressionless, and he continued to exert force on his hands. After nearly 10 seconds, he finally released his arm. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Naked twist. Downstairs, seeing that there was no movement coming from upstairs for a long time, the quiet staircase was like an abyss mouth devouring life. The leader finally couldn't sit still, picked up AK and prepared to go on stage in person. After Sean finished everything, he pressed his feet and moved to the corner of the bathroom wall, waiting for the other person. Moonlight shone through the window, pulling the shadow of the leader to an old man. He licked his slightly dry lips, suppressing the eerie environment, which made him feel a bit unnatural. Especially the corpse of his companion brought him even greater pressure, silently. There were no wounds on the corpse, and there was still a eerie tranquility on his face. All of this unusual made sweat beads slowly fall off his forehead, and he wanted to shrink back. He stopped next to the toilet, carefully rubbing the corner of his eye against the sweat, blinking hard. The immense psychological pressure even made him feel a little dizzy. Who? Suddenly, two strong and powerful arms stretched out from the toilet, one grabbing the front end of AK in his hand, and the other quickly pulling the trigger into the position so that he could not fire. Then, a long and large leg swooshed into his crotch with a cunning sound. Bang! Ah! Ha! Ha! The intense pain stimulated his nerves, and on the spot, he instinctively released his grip and covered his crotch, kneeling on the ground, his strong body constantly trembling and twitching. God is kind, but Sean is not. He immediately hunched over and rode, with his arms inserted into the opponent's neck, his hands clasped, and he contracted hard, twisting his back naked. After strangling the other person, he pulled out a brand new machete from their buttocks and skillfully cut their throat, including the guy who was suspected of being hanged in front and the few guys who were killed first. Then he dragged their bodies out and threw them onto the street, clapping his hands, and the farce came to an end. What? Can you ask me if it doesn't smell like this? Relax, buddy. Everything will return to its original state tomorrow morning. Next, let's take a look at the spoils of war, a Nepalese machete, and a pickup truck. Well, to be more precise, it should be called the Gorkha curved sword. The soldiers of Gurkha had a special fondness for this kind of curved sword. It is said that once it is unsheathed, it must drink blood. Adult Gurkha men can cut off the head of a water buffalo with one blow. If they cannot cut it off with one blow, they will be looked down upon and not worthy of being called men. These Gurkha people, with an average height of only 1.6 meters, have a very special belief. It is better to die than to live cowardly. From this creed, it can be seen that this is a nation with a strong character, and the Gurkha machetes are very popular around the world, especially those mercenaries who lick their blood with their swords. It symbolizes courage, iron blood, and slaughter. Sean wiped the curved blade shiny and looked at Senhen's blade with satisfaction. He liked this guy because he could earn a lot of dollars. I believe no one in Baghdad would refuse such a lovely and moving guy. Satisfied, I put away the curved blade and then ran to prepare to inspect the old and almost battered pickup truck. The outer tire is thickened and it can still operate normally. However, the drawbacks of this thing are quite obvious, except for the horn not making a sound, it makes noise everywhere. Of course, this does not affect the ability of this thing to operate. With it, it will be even more convenient in the future, such as delivering goods to your doorstep. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have a means of transportation. Have you ever seen such a destitute arms dealer? Take a look at the Northrop Grumman Company. They have their own agency in Baghdad, which is heavily guarded and has elite teams as security. Not to mention the products they sell, they are also responsible for rescue operations. With just one phone call, even if you are currently surrounded by reactionary forces, they can safely rescue you, provide after-sales service, deliver goods to your doorstep, and so on. Looking at myself, a rundown gun shop full of vintage World War II and World War I items, without after-sales service, delivery, or security. Now Sean is only envious, but he believes that with his system and means, he will eventually become bigger and stronger, and create more brilliance. Retrieving my thoughts, the already dilapidated store has become even more dilapidated. Sigh, these days, it's so frustrating. The next day, around 10 o'clock in the morning, Sean lazily leaned behind the counter. "Hi Sean, my friend, are you happy to see that I'm not dead?" Ahmed's rough voice came from the door, with a faint hint of pride, accompanied by a young-looking black guy with an M1 rifle on his back, tattered clothes like a long strip, and distinctly different worn-out boots under his feet. His big black eyes were also tinged with childishness and ignorance. Sean's eyes lit up and he said, "Oh, congratulations, my friend." Ahmed proudly pulled out a large stack of dollars, and Franklin's charming and ugly face caught his eye, making Sean's eyes even brighter. "Huh, my friend, tell me quickly what you've done. The tempting taste of the US dollar is so charming." Ahmed exclaimed excitedly, "I've made a big deal. I've taken down Hibatula Hunza." Hibatula Hunza. This name Sean is not unfamiliar. This guy was once listed in wanted notices issued by the US military, ranking 25th. Hibatullah Hunza, graduated from Yarmouk University in Jordan, is a bomb expert and explosive genius. He has participated in the street sniping of American soldiers in Ramadi, Baghdad, causing multiple injuries and even deaths. He is even more insane and has planned multiple attacks against the US military. He is wanted worldwide, with a prize money of up to $280,000 US. Sean's eyes flickered with golden light as he stared intently at Ahmed's rough big face. "My brother, you're getting rich." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Kind Christians. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Kind Christians. Ahmed stared at Sean with caution and said, "Hi, my friend. I know you, I know what you're thinking. Don't have too much hope. Of course, I'm not the only one capable of doing such a big task. This is led by a large mercenary team, and I just drank some soup along. I only got $20,000. Fake, $20,000. These damn vampires should go to hell." Sean looked very dissatisfied. "Damn it, what kind of gaze are you giving? I'm not those damn vampires, we're brothers. Listen, if I were you, I would use all this money to buy equipment and kick those damn vampires' buttocks hard. Then tell them, you scumbags, this is Baghdad, this is Iraqi territory, you should shrink your heads and be human." Ahmed said, "Sean, your acting skills are simply terrible. Listen, I will buy a batch of weapons from you." Ahmad, my brother. You're my best partner, aren't you? To show my sincerity, I'm willing to let you visit my warehouse and offer you a discounted price. Sean grinned wide as he spoke, leading him inside. Then he pushed open a rusty iron door and crawled inside. The so-called warehouse was only 30 to 40 square meters, filled with various World War I and World War II antiques. Wow, Kar 98K, Nazi butcher's knife. My ideal lover. Look, there's gun oil on the body of this gun, it's really intoxicating. It's a gift from God. Oh, sell it. Moxinigan, water-connected beads, a symbol of the fighting nation's achievements, a representative of revolution and peace, this charming treasure, I love it too much. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going. Ahmed excitedly picked up a Moshenigan rifle in his left hand, and a Kar 98K Mauser rifle in his right hand. He cursed while pouting and kissing hard. Damn it, look what you've done, it's all your saliva now. Sean exclaimed in great dissatisfaction. Ahmed caressed the barrel of the gun with an intoxicated expression on his face and said, "Sean, these are mine. I love them so much. How much do these two guns cost?" $7,000. Ahmed's movement stiffened, and then his nose twisted with anger. He danced and said, fake squid. Sean. You're the vampire, you're even more despicable than those Western capitalist scumbags. Damn it, I'm your friend. We're partners, you just said we're good brothers. No, I'm a businessman. The Moxinigan rifle is rough and simple to operate, and is one of the earliest smokeless small-caliber military rifles with multiple models of extension. It has many advantages such as high accuracy and strong stability, and its service time of up to 60 years is enough to prove its excellence. During World War II, it was the main combat rifle of the former Soviet Union, which made great contributions to it. It has also been imitated and used by multiple countries precisely because it is reliable enough. The 98K rifle, on the other hand, had a huge killing power and high accuracy, earning it the nickname Nazi Butcher's Knife due to its equipment in the Nazi German army. These weapons have all been placed in museums with the emergence of semi-automatic rifles. According to arms transactions across various continents of the United States, the current market price for the 98K is around $3,000. For $1,000, while the Moxinigan only costs a few $100s. Sean felt that calling himself $7,000 was definitely a matter of conscience. Damn it, Sean, you're robbing. In Baghdad, besides me, not many people are willing to use these World War II old men. Ahmed shouted in a fit of anger, but he still held on to the two guns tightly in his hands, clearly still very fond of this treasure. Sean shook his head and said, "My friend, this is not a good reason. Although they may seem a bit old, they are still powerful weapons for killing, right? Fuck. I really want to forcefully stuff its barrel into your mouth and let you experience the power of the killing weapon in your mouth." Ahmed cursed with gritted teeth, "You have to give me a little cheaper. You know, I only have $20,000, and my people still need to eat." Sean shook his head and said, "That's really a pity. The Nazi butcher's knife can only wait for the day its true owner arrives, but you can have it, can't you?" In fact, at first Sean never thought that Ahmed would buy such a delicate, luxury item like the 98K. What a joke. He was so poor that he jingled and even led a small team. How dare he spend money like this? Don't eat any more. This is also the sadness of his antique style. Those who can afford it cannot afford it, and those who can afford it cannot afford it. You can take a look at other things, such as this MKI flare, Margil grenade, M14 hand-dropped thermite incendiary bomb, and so on. The price is affordable, and if you buy more, you can still get a discount. Sean relied on his 3-inch eloquent tongue to promote, with the goal of sucking up all the dollars in this guy's pocket, otherwise he would feel uneasy sleeping. Ahmed hesitated for half a day before making a decision and gritted his teeth to place an order. "Sean, give me 4 STG-44 assault rifles, 1,300 x51mm bullets, a box of MKI hand grenades, 2 more grenade launchers, and 10 shells." Upon hearing this, Sean's eyes appeared to be in a slit. He twisted his fingers and calculated, the STG-44 assault rifle costs $2,000, 1,500 rounds of X51mm bullets cost you $450, the MKI grenade costs you $200, and the grenade barrel and shell cost a total of $300, for a total of $2,950. To round it up, we only charge you $3,000. By the way, do you need to help you load it? Ahmed is a rough person, and he is not good at math, let alone mental arithmetic. After all, he listened with a bewildered expression on his face. He turned to his black buddy next to him and asked, did he calculate correctly? Should. Right. That black guy is even more confused than him. What's going on? He can't even understand. Okay. Okay, I believe Sean won't deceive me, Ahmed said helplessly. Sean clumsily took a snake-skin pocket and roughly stuffed the weapons and equipment he wanted into it. After finishing all this, he seemed to have thought of something else and quickly ran out of the warehouse, leaving Ahmed and his companions in place even more bewildered. But not long after, he He ran back and waved his Gurkha machete at Ahmed, saying, "Hi, my friend, Gurkha machete, $1,200. How about that? Do you want it?" Ahmed's eyes lit up instantly. He took the curved knife and sniffed it with his nose pressed against it like a fool. "Dude, it's not a kind Christian, it's already drunk with blood." Mercenaries all over the world have some kind of superstition, such as believing that weapons have emotions, that only those who have seen blood are the true tools to harvest life, and those newly opened weapons can only be considered rookies. As for those firearms that can get stuck, they are kind Christians, and they prefer demons who harvest life. Sure enough, after listening to Sean's words, Ahmed finally gritted his teeth and handed him $1,200, then turned around and left, as if fleeing for his life. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Road Encounter Attacks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Road Encounter Attacks. No, my friend, don't be so anxious. Ahmed turned his head in confusion and said, "What's wrong, Sean?" "I paid for it, don't think you'll change your mind." Sean shrugged and said, "Of course not. I'm a very ethical businessman, and I just wanted to ask if you know anyone. I think I should find a new place to stay, after all, this place is really run down." Ahmed stared at Sean with a silly gaze and said, "Do you mean you want to buy a piece of land in Baghdad?" "Yes, you heard me right. Doing business in such a rundown place is not a good choice, is it?" Sean shrugged helplessly and said, "In Iraq, I only know you, so." Ahmed thought for a moment and wondered, "But you should know, I'm so poor I can't even afford bullets, I don't have anything." "Don't underestimate my friend, I believe in your energy. You once served in the 36th Assault Battalion, didn't you? You should know some people, well, at least it shouldn't be difficult for you to bridge the gap." Before he could finish his difficult words, Sean waved his hand and interrupted, offering a series of compliments. Ahmed was immediately used and said, "Haha, that's for sure. I know a colonel from the 26th Brigade who used to be a new recruit in the same period as me. I can introduce you to him." Sean said, "Thank you, my friend. You can take 10 more shells as a token of my gratitude." "Ha, I am very satisfied with your gratitude. I can take you to see him now." Then Sean carried the over $30,000 he had saved up during this period with him, took a Garland M1 semi-automatic rifle and 4 magazines from the warehouse, and finally carried a Ka-Bar 1214 combat dagger before taking Ahmed out. Sean proudly pointed to the tattered pickup truck he seized last night and said, "Where's the destination? Let's drive over." In Baghdad, the most popular items are not expensive and exquisite luxury cars, but rather these seemingly rundown pickup trucks and some 3-wheeled motorcycles. Firstly, they are cheap, secondly, they are durable and easy to use. Of course, even such cheap guys need to be armed forces with certain strength to afford them. As for cannon fodder characters like Ahmed, one sentence can describe. Transportation relies mainly on walking, communication relies mainly on roaring. Good baby, where did you get it? Sean shrugged and said, "Last night, a group of lunatics broke into a house." Upon hearing this, Ahmed's gaze was not too much to ask. In places like Baghdad, so-called trespassing on houses is not a new thing, it's just that most of the owners of the houses have been killed, and Sean has killed them instead, nothing particularly. As for why Sean was able to counterkill, please, the only ones who can ask such a question are chicks. Sean, this guy, has been able to open a rundown gun shop in this place for so long without any skills. Why is he? The 3 of them rushed the things into the car, and Ahmed sat in front of the passenger seat. He then took out a box of American spirits from his chest pocket and held one in his mouth, gesturing to Sean, the smell from capitalist countries. Sean shook his head and refused, "I don't like the American spirit, China is my favorite." He took out a white box and shook the red pagoda mountain, saying, "Look, this is a gift from the Red Will." He pulled out a cigarette and flicked it firmly into his mouth, then took out a Zorro lighter from his pocket and swung it. After spinning his hand around, he lit the cigarette, squinted his eyes, and sucked in intoxication before slowly spitting it out. Ahmed shook his head and nodded at the American spirit on his lips, saying, "Sean, if it weren't for understanding your character, I would definitely think you're not smoking cigarettes now, but white powder." Sean opened his eyes and spoke in a melancholic tone, "You don't understand. I yearn for that place, but unfortunately, I don't have the chance." In his previous life, he had a longing, but unfortunately, it was destined that he would not be able to go there. In this life, after merging the memories of the original owner, he had more complex feelings for that great country. However, his profession was already predetermined, and he would never have the opportunity to go there, even if it was just a look or a walk. With a sigh, Sean turned his head and asked, "Where are we going now?" Ahmed said, "Central Racecourse, he should be there now." "Okay, fasten your seatbelt and sit firmly on, my friend." Boom. After speaking, I stepped on the gas pedal all the way, and the old pickup truck engine let out a deep roar, as if telling people that I am not old. The strong sensation of pushing his back in an instant frightened the black guy in the back seat, who was trembling and constantly muttering something. There are no speed limits or traffic lights in Baghdad, just drive fast. If you hit someone, you're unlucky. If you hit a wall, you're unlucky. Life and death are in the cards, wealth and fortune are in the sky. Just hit the gas pedal to the end, just go for it. "Oh, Sean, your car is amazing. I really want to lie on it and kiss a few times." "Damn it, you better not get your dirty saliva on my car, otherwise I will definitely hit your butt hard." This pickup truck seems to have been modified by someone, with a super large displacement, which really gave Sean a big surprise. Bang! Suddenly, a cluster of sparks exploded on the safety bar of the car, startling Sean and Ahmed, who quickly lowered their heads. "Stay low. Sniper." Out of the corner of Sean's eye, he suddenly caught a glimpse of the black guy reflected in the rearview mirror making a move to push the door and get out of the car. He was so angry that he immediately exclaimed, "Fake squid. Mind your new bee. Otherwise, I'll send him to see God now." Sean slammed on the accelerator hard, shifting the gear to full. At this point, all he had to do was increase the speed as fast as possible, rather than opening the door and getting off the car. Otherwise, the sniper would be very grateful for the gift from the fool. "Damn it, if you don't want to live anymore, I'll send you to see Allah now and lie down honestly." Ahmed pulled out his pistol and fiercely confronted the frightened black guy, saying, "You scumbag, quickly get down on me and don't move around." A series of bullets flew from afar, splashing sparks on the pickup truck. "4 o'clock, AK-47. A lot. Fake squid, did you offend anyone?" Sean heard the familiar voice that had been echoing throughout Iraq all year round and immediately roared at Ahmed. The AK-47 firearm has never represented the government army in Baghdad. It's either a reactionary armed group or a mafia. These guys all have a common characteristic, which is to hold grudges. In short, no one is easy to get along with. Fuck, I have offended too many people. Do you ask me? How do I know? Ahmed retorted irritably, lowering his head. Damn it, no matter who it is, I have recorded this grudge. Dare to attack an arms dealer. When I come back, I will send them to hell to repent for what they did today. Damn it, let's just survive first before we talk. Shoo. As Sean was about to speak, he suddenly saw a ragged guy running out in front of him, carrying a Type 56 40mm rocket launcher on his shoulder, commonly known as the 40 Fire. Fake. RPG. Sean's soul erupted and he roared wildly. The shell, with its unique tail flame, pierced through the sky, followed by a huge impact. The old pickup truck was immediately flipped out, rolling uncontrollably for several times before collapsing to the ground. The car window shattered and scattered all over the ground, and a few faint howls could be faintly heard inside. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. SAR Shooting System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 SAR Shooting System. Ahem. After seeing a successful blow, the guy rushed over and crouched down next to the pickup truck, stretching his head to see if anyone survived. Unfortunately, just as his head had stretched out, a dagger shot out and steadily pierced his neck. Hee. The guy stared and let out a few whistles in his throat. He raised his hands in an attempt to struggle. The dagger stabbed in, twisted, and then forcefully pulled out. Blood kept flowing out of the guy's mouth, and his neck twisted and clattered to the end, dying beyond death. A slightly weak moan came from inside the car. I haven't lived enough yet, how can I die? Sean endured the pain on his body, struggled to unbuckle his seatbelt, and crawled out of the car. The shattered window glass left several deep wounds on him, and blood flowed down in a winding stream. He took 2 quick breaths and glanced into the car. The rookie black guy had only half of his head left on his neck, with red and white flowing everywhere. His body was twisted and he couldn't die anymore. Ahmed, on the other hand, lay motionless in his seat with a face full of blood, but it seemed like he had just fainted. Sean was just about to wake up the other person when he heard a chaotic sound of footsteps, mixed with mixed shouts, coming from not far away. Unable to do anything, Sean had to reach out and take out the STG-44 assault rifle from Ahmed's arms. Then he ran into a nearby alley, where he had just disappeared when several black guys holding AKs surrounded him. One of the guys seemed somewhat out of place, with a hooked nose, sharp eyes, and an M24 sniper rifle in his arms. The M24 sniper rifle, also known as the M24 sniper weapon system, also known as the M24 SWS, is a military derivative of the Remington M700. It is known as the Python KISS and began service in the U.S. military in 1988. The key question is, why did this gun appear in the hands of a group of armed militants whose main weapon is AK? You can even imagine the filth with your butt. Sean was peering at the situation in the dark and saw the gun curse fiercely in a low voice, "Grass, damn the beautiful G.Man. Head. There's still a living person here." A black guy who was checking the situation suddenly shouted loudly. The leader said sternly upon hearing the words, "Drag him out and wake him up." Several armed militants rudely dragged Ahmed out to wake him up, and then pressed him to the ground. "Tell me, did you snatch this car?" The leading armed militants grabbed Ahmed's hair and pulled it back hard, staring at him with fierce eyes and asking fiercely. Ahmed's painful facial features twisted, and he weakly pulled the corners of his mouth and sneered, "Go to hell and ask Satan." At this moment, Ahmed didn't even know that he had been implicated by Sean, but he didn't intend to betray Sean because he knew that these armed militants wouldn't let him go for it. "Damn it, get rid of him." The leader cursed angrily and punched Ahmed hard in the face, leaving no intention of continuing to ask. 2 subordinates grabbed Ahmed and forced him to kneel on both knees, while another Middle Eastern-looking guy raised his AK and pressed it against the back of his head. Execution by firing squad. Ahmed's face was swollen and covered in blood, trembling as he took out a barely clean photo from his pocket. On it was a girl with a bright and innocent smile, and in the background, Baghdad was beautiful and beautiful, forming a sharp contrast to the present-day ruins. He trembled as he picked up the photo, gave a sacred kiss on his face, and closed his eyes. "My Alia." Bang! A gunshot rang out, and to his surprise, he was still alive. Ahmed opened his bewildered eyes with a puzzled expression on his face. "Get down." A familiar voice came, and he recognized it as coming from the damn vampire Sean. Quickly reacting, he rushed forward and rolled his head to the side. This unexpected situation was too sudden, and by the time the leader realized it, the executioner had already fallen to the ground and died. The experience of struggling in the war-torn area made him instinctively lie down on the spot, and he used both hands and feet to crawl into the bottom of the pickup truck. If it weren't for Ahmed, the best option for this surprise attack would be to first deal with the sniper or the leader. Unfortunately, Sean had to give up this optimal solution to save Ahmed. Sean was quick and prominent, with a precise rifle shot in his hand, and he quickly eliminated the sniper. Fortunately, that guy is a fake, otherwise it might be difficult today. To be precise, that guy can't even be called a sniper. Apart from shooting accurately, his other skills are mediocre, and his combat skills are difficult to call excellent. Sean's gun control method is somewhat unique. His combat state gun control action is to keep the gun line under his own line of sight, while using binocular aiming for combat shooting, avoiding situations where the sight and line of sight are at the same level, causing interference to the observable field of view, and allowing himself to obtain the maximum visible range. And keep the hands and arms of the rifle close to both sides of the chest, using your upper body as a base point to form a stable triangular state between your hands and the rifle, so that you can maintain the most stable support structure while moving the smallest body range to achieve the maximum shooting angle swing. Just like the inner circle and the outer circle takes much more time to rotate one circle than the inner circle. Everyone understands this principle, and this seemingly unique shooting method comes from a pistol CQC shooting system. CAR pistol shooting system. That is, the central axis relocking system. However, Sean belongs to a variant version of the rifle. Several other armed militants hurriedly searched for cover, but unfortunately there were not many close-range covers available for them to use at this time. They were all named one by the STG-44 assault rifle in Sean's hand. After firing the last bullet in the magazine, Sean quickly retreated into a broken wall, quickly replaced it with a new magazine, and thrust forward again, maintaining a rhythmic firing of his rifle to suppress his firepower. "Hi buddy, are you waiting to die? We should go now." Ahmed crouched down, holding back the pain from his body, rushed over and picked up the M24 sniper rifle, then quickly retreated. Sean silently counted the number of bullets, and when the last one was fired, he immediately held the bottom of the magazine with his palm in his hand, his index finger pressed against the front of the magazine, and the rest of his fingers wrapped around it. He pulled the bolt, loaded it, and fired the entire process seamlessly. As the two of them retreated deep into the alley, Sean's burly body suddenly knelt half on one knee, not moving or shaking, shouting loudly, "Gun shooting." Ahmed immediately and tacitly placed the muzzle of his M24 gun on his shoulder, grabbed the tail of the gun, lowered his breath, aimed, and fired. Bang! The loud sound made Sean's eardrums ache, but the effect was very ideal. When he looked around, he saw a figure lying on the ground under the pickup truck shaking, and then there was no movement. "Nice!" Ahmed exclaimed proudly. Sean stood up and slapped him, "Your shooting skills are good. It seems like you didn't mess around in the 36th Assault Battalion." Ahmed proudly said, "Of course, I am an elite soldier." Then, as if remembering something, he suddenly turned his head and stared fiercely at Sean, saying, "Damn it, I helped you block the gun today. I never even thought of betraying you to the death." Sean shrugged and said, "Of course, otherwise I wouldn't have turned back to save you." Ahmed complained, "Fuck, I almost died because of you. You have to compensate me." Sean suddenly stared at him seriously and said, "Why don't you come and follow me?" Sean continued, "Look, all those guys you're looking for are rookies. They can't help you, they'll even hold you back. You're facing experienced armed militants, and even some elite mercenaries. Those war dogs are not something you can stop with these rookies, right?" After a pause, Sean continued to bewitch, "But I'm different. I have rich combat experience, excellent skills, and I can also provide you with the weapons and equipment you need. Most importantly, I will also pay you a salary. Oh my God, where can you find such a generous boss? In the Middle East, no one can say no to an arms dealer, even if he is just an unremarkable and destitute arms dealer." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. You are a Chinese. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. You are a Chinese. Sean knew that by relying solely on himself, he could never become a mediocre arms dealer or arms broker. To become bigger and stronger, he must cultivate his own power, and Ahmed in front of him would definitely be a good companion. This guy has a reliable personality and a certain level of friendship. Although his combat skills may be slightly inferior to his own, he can still be used. After all, he is a guy from the Special Forces. One more thing, this guy is poor and living such a miserable life indicates that he doesn't have enough connections, and the conditions he promised happened to hit the nail on the head. Sure enough, he was tempted by Sean's offer. How much salary are you planning to pay me? I'll give you a fixed salary of $5,000, but of course, that's not all. You can also enjoy better dividends. Let's talk more about it later. This is not the place to talk. This kind of salary may not be considered generous, but for Ahmed, it is definitely sincere enough. He is just a lonely person, perhaps he will die tomorrow in a corner of Baghdad, becoming a corpse, not even a corpse collector. It sounds good, wish us a pleasant cooperation. Ahmed agreed very readily, hardly considering too deeply, and then extended his palm to Sean. Sean held the other person's palm and smiled, believe me, buddy, you won't regret today's decision. One day, we will become legends. After cleaning the battlefield, the two of them hurriedly left, and the loot that could not be taken away could only be discarded on the spot. In this place of Baghdad, with such a loud and dense gunfire, if it attracts government troops or gangsters, it may be difficult for the two of them to leave. Just as the two of them had left, a few pickup trucks drove over. The body shook its tail, and 10 or so armed militants holding AK-47s immediately jumped down from it. These people seemed to have good qualities, but as soon as they arrived, they dispersed their positions and some even went to grab high positions. A Middle Eastern man emerged from one of the pickup trucks, dressed in a suit and leather shoes, with an Omega Sovereign military watch on his wrist and meticulous hair, giving him a somewhat dog-like appearance. Head, Zabik has been killed, one of the armed militants reported with a solemn expression. The guy looked expressionless and casually tugged at his tie, saying, find them, get rid of them. Let people know that this is Baghdad, and no one can oppose us. Sean, I don't think we can go to the racetrack to find that lieutenant colonel. Walking on the road, Ahmed suddenly said to Sean. Sean was puzzled and said, why? Ahmed said, listen, if we go over now, that guy will definitely kill us if he finds out what just happened. Sean was even more puzzled. Just because we killed those armed militants. Ahmed said with certainty, yes, those people are the Baghdad gang, the double-headed snake gang. Sean, you shouldn't provoke them. Sean complained, no, it's not me who provoked them. It's because they wanted to kill me that I took their car. I can't sit idly by, even if Maliki comes, I have to take him down. Ahmad shook his head helplessly and said, the Maliki government has distributed a portion of the food and medicine to the people in Baghdad. They are no longer just gangsters because they are recognized and supported by the government. Sean angrily cursed, fake, this is simply terrible. Ahmed gloated and said, you should be glad that I discovered their identity. Otherwise, if we go find that lieutenant colonel, everything will be too late. Yes, I have made a great contribution and saved your life. You should reward me, for example, how about giving me a raise? Damn it, I'm your boss now. What's your attitude? Forget it, we need to find a new foothold, otherwise we'll all starve here and your salary won't work. Ahmed furrowed his brows upon hearing this, and fell silent. The two of them silently headed towards the road, temporarily falling into silence. They dared not stop at this moment, as this place was not yet out of danger. In Iraq, those who dare to relax will definitely become corpses. Ahmed suddenly spoke up, hi buddy, I have an idea. Would you like to listen to it? Sean exclaimed in surprise, oh. I knew you must have a way, tell me quickly. Ahmed proudly said, of course, I haven't been fooling around for so many years. Later, he said seriously, Sean, it's absolutely not feasible for us to buy land at the moment, but we can go and grab it. Ahmed, do you know what you're talking about? Ahmad shook his head and said, don't worry, listen to me first. Have you forgotten? This is Baghdad, not your beautiful country with strict rule of law. The current Maliki government is at odds with the reactionary forces, and they don't have the energy to manage some trivial matters. Many factories have become empty shells. We can choose one and take it for ourselves. Sean's eyes lit up. Yes, why didn't a genius like me think of this part? At present, the entire Iraq is a battlefield, and the government's main target is those reactionary armed forces, rather than some trivial matters. By analogy, Sean immediately thought of another aspect of his identity. His identity in this lifetime is a serious Chinese person. The identity of a Chinese person is still very useful in Baghdad. Anyway, as long as you have such an identity, the local government dare not openly manipulate you. You're just my lucky general. How could I not have thought of this before? You're right, we can't buy it, so go grab it. After figuring out the key, Sean immediately slapped Ahmed's shoulder vigorously and laughed loudly. Ahmed's shoulder was painful from being slapped, and he gritted his teeth. You should know that Sean is 1.93 meters tall, weighs 115 kilograms, has broad shoulders and back, thick waist, and is not strong enough, while Ahmed is only 1.82 meters tall. Although he looks equally strong, in front of Sean, that is the difference between a big gray wolf and a little sheep. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Conflict. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Conflict PS, Chapter 7 Under review. There is an abandoned factory in the eastern suburbs of Baghdad, which used to be used for making meat products. It has workshops, warehouses, and most importantly, a cold storage. Ahmed said to Sean with a cigarette in his mouth. Cold storage. Sean's eyes lit up. You should know that in subtropical arid and semi-arid areas like Baghdad, the temperature in summer often reaches over 40 degrees Celsius, which is as uncomfortable as baking over a fire. Eggs can be cooked by waiting on the ground for a few minutes. Water seems luxurious here, and having an ice storage facility is like the love from heaven. Sean smiled and exhaled the smoke from his mouth. Great, Ahmed, what's going on in that place now? Ahmad said, that place has long been abandoned and is now occupied by a group of refugees. We have a few AK-47s in our hands, and it will take some effort for us to take them. Sean nodded and said, how many people are there? Ahmed said, as far as I know, there should be no less than 50 people. We need to ask for help from others. Sean's face darkened and he took a hard puff on his cigarette. Damn it, your booze, me, Sean, I'm very poor now. You want me to spend money looking for people? Who do you want me to find? A cheap garbage team. I don't think this bunch of garbage that hasn't seen blood can help us take that cute freezer. Ahmed said with an enigmatic expression, Sean, although there are few teams that are cheap, affordable, and have strong combat abilities, they are not without them. Coincidentally, I only know one. Sean turned his head in surprise and stared at him. Tell me what? Ahmad said, this team has strong combat capabilities, brave personnel, is not afraid of death, and is affordable, but... Just what? Sean, you're Chinese, and they hate Chinese people. Sean frowned and said, why? Ahmad said, because they are yekids. Upon hearing this, Sean's brow furrowed even tighter. Of course, he knew that these people were a group of crazy warriors brainwashed by religious beliefs. They worshipped demons and gods, which is quite contradictory. They never fear death, they believe that death is just a test of the devil. As for why they dislike the Huaxia people, it has to be said that their taboos. They taboo pandas, pigs, and hexagonal stars. Only China has pandas. Sean frowned and pondered for a long time before suddenly speaking, let's find them. Now take me to meet these crazy religious warriors. Ahmed said, do you really want to hire them? This could be dangerous. Sean said, why not? They are warriors, and they should pick up steel guns and walk onto the battlefield. As for the danger, I am a tough person. Sean fiercely threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stomped it out, saying harshly, Ahmed, remember, we are walking on this road, with no way out. Only by moving forward can we stop. Success never belongs to cowards. Ahmed was taken aback for a moment before jumping and cursing after him, fox squid. Sean, have you treated me like a rookie? I don't need you to teach me these truths. What else is there to hesitate about? Okay, I'll take you to meet those religious warriors now. The two of them were carrying rifles, tall in stature, and stood out on the road. The common people they encountered were all trying to avoid as far away as possible. Obviously, there were not many people with broken minds. The two of them walked along the way and eventually entered a small alley with a lot of money and strange smells. The walls were filled with crooked and mottled words. Iraq doesn't need dictators. The Iraqi people should kill Saddam in order to achieve democracy and freedom. Saddam is a tyrant. Look, how ironic. Ahmed said with a hint of bitterness and ridicule. Sean shrugged and said, in our Chinese language, if we don't die, we won't die. Think about it, the original stability is not there. Now, every day there is a bombardment of shells, gunshots, massacres, robberies, conflicts, and countless crimes everywhere. This is the freedom and democracy they aspire to. At the end of the alley, there was a rusty and dilapidated iron gate on the left. Ahmed reached out and patted the door, shouting loudly, Abraham. Who are you? Hi. Come out quickly, two unfamiliar guys are here. A seemingly young guy walked out with AK-47 on his shoulder, aiming his gun at Sean and the others, and shouted loudly inside. Ahmed calmly pressed down Sean's hand, which he wanted to raise the gun, while negotiating, Hi, I'm Ahmed. I'm here to find Abraham, we're friends. Damn Shia traitors, we can never be friends. A rough voice came from the inner room, and a muscular figure walked out, followed by 5 or 6 people holding a variety of weapons. Abraham, we once fought side by side. Ahmed angrily patted the iron door and said in great dissatisfaction. Sean glanced at Ahmed in surprise. The two guys who couldn't hit him with 8 sticks were actually comrades in arms. After a moment of silence, Abraham shook his head and said, Yes, but that was just once. For the sake of you blocking a deadly bullet for me, I am willing to promise you something. Ahmed said, We need help right now. Abraham suddenly caught a glimpse of Sean behind him and angrily said, Damn it, you brought a Chinese person to the territory of the Yekids. Are you provoking me? Get out of here with this big guy. Damn yellow-skinned monkey. Bang. Sean punched the iron door with a loud sound, which startled Ahmed beside him. Sean. Ahmed saw Sean's gloomy expression and felt a thump in his heart. He obediently closed his mouth. Idiot, I can write your neck with one hand. Sean raised his middle finger and cursed while gritting his teeth. Abraham suddenly stared at Sean with his bright red eyes. The essence of the Yazid people is full of wildness, and they often don't think too much. They are always a true portrayal of them, in simple terms. Life and death are indifferent, if you don't agree, go ahead. You angered Abraham. Abraham angrily let out a low growl from his throat, ignoring the difference in height and physique between the two, and rushed forward straight. Sean pushed aside Ahmed and raised a fist as big as a clay pot, hitting him with a heavy cannon from behind. He hit Abraham head-on, making him dizzy. With a soft thud, he fell to the ground. Sean took an inch and rushed up, pressing Abraham under him with a single thrust, forming a superior suppression. The few guys who followed Abraham were shocked and immediately wanted to go up and help. Ahmed had a clear mind and took a step forward, picked up his STG-44 assault rifle, and aimed it at a few people. "Hi, I think we should let them have a friendly conversation, Give them some time to be alone," he said. The younger guy shouted, "Ahmed, don't forget, you're all Iraqi like us." Ahmed shrugged and said, "Of course, but unfortunately, Sean is my boss and I am a loyal employee, so I hope you don't make any unwise decisions, otherwise everyone will not be better off." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. OODA. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. OODA. A group of Yakidian people gritted their steel teeth, but there was nothing they could do. Sean had a grim expression on his face and raised his fist the size of a clay pot to smash Abraham's forehead. He said fiercely, "Do you agree? You have the ability. You kill me." Abraham was obviously a tough guy, even though he was pressed under his body and brutally trampled, his mouth still spoke fiercely. Sean was not hesitant either. With one hand, he forcefully clamped the opponent's hands and pressed them tightly under his body. With the other hand, he reached out to his buttocks and pulled out the M1911. He opened the safety, loaded it, and in one fell swoop, fiercely pressing it against Abraham's forehead. "Hey, really thought I wouldn't dare to kill you? Grass, if you don't give me some real work, do you really think, buddy, I'm a vegetarian? Stop it. Damn Huashia guy. Hey, don't take my words as farting. This is between the two of them, otherwise I don't mind sending you to meet Allah now." Seeing the commotion in the crowd and eager to try, Ahmed pulled the trigger without hesitation, bullets hitting the ground, and the soil flying. Cough. Cough cough. "I admit defeat, damn it, you're so ruthless." It has been proven that even the toughest guy always succumbs when his life is clearly threatened, and no one wants to die meaningless. Remember to brush your teeth when you go out in the future, you bastard. Sean spat fiercely before letting go of this guy. He stood up, closed his pistol safety, inserted it back into the holster, and casually patted the wrinkled clothes. "Cough, come on, big guy from China, what do you want me to do?" Abraham's face turned red, and his tone was a bit subdued. "Look, isn't it good to talk like this from the beginning? We have to suffer a bit." Sean grinned and said, "There is a factory in the suburbs of Baghdad that is currently occupied by some refugees. I need your help to grab it, and I will pay you $20,000. $20,000. Abraham and a group of his subordinates immediately widened their eyes and breathed rapidly. "I promised, when will we take action?" Without much hesitation, Abraham thought for a moment and agreed. Sean raised his hand to look at the Rolex on his wrist and said, "It's 4:20 p.m. now. 3 hours of preparation time, and we'll depart on time at 7:20 p.m. I hope you can take things seriously. If you fail, you won't take any money from me. The Yazidians never fail." Abraham snorted coldly and led his men back to the inner room. Sean shrugged nonchalantly, unconvincing about Abraham's confidence. The outcome of the battle was the truth. Ahmed turned his head and asked foolishly, "Should we go in?" Sean walked straight to a corner and squatted down against the wall, taking out a Tashin and holding it in his mouth. Clack. Hiss. Fur. "If you want to be stared at by a few pairs of malicious eyes for 3 hours, I don't mind you following in," lit the cigarette, took a deep breath, and exhaled lightly. Okay, let's forget about it then." Ahmed casually waved his hand and, like Sean, found a corner to lazily sit on the ground. The sun in Iraq set very late, and it was about to darken at 7:20 p.m. Sean opened his eyes on time, and at that moment, Abraham and his group also walked out with long guns and short cannons. The luxurious equipment made Sean's 24K titanium alloy dog eyes widen, and his saliva almost couldn't help but drip down. Arm or Sources ACH Combat Helmet, PSGT Tactical Vest, AM-16 Assault Rifle in hand, and a guy carrying a terrifying weapon. M82A1. Barrett M82A1, commonly known as a cannon by players in some shooting games, is a highly lethal anti-materiel sniper rifle. Compared to that, Sean's STG-44 assault rifle looked very shabby, and he took a deep look at Abraham. Without a doubt, the origin of these weapons and equipment is not simple. Oh my goodness. Abraham, are you robbing an entire U.S. Special Forces unit? Ahmed exclaimed in surprise when he saw this group of armed men, his eyes wide open. Abraham shrugged his shoulders without much explanation. Everyone has a clear understanding in their hearts that these equipment must come from the U.S. military, but of course, they are not special forces. They are not so poor, and as for how they got it, fools will delve deeper. A group of 8 people took advantage of the dim sky, avoided the main road, and trotted forward. Ahmed played the role of a guide, leading the way while explaining the internal layout of the factory to everyone. Before the battle begins, information is absolutely the top priority, and no one will be vague in this regard. We need to enter through the gate first, then use firepower to suppress and cut off the enemy's OODA. Ahmed, you and Ika need to each seize the high ground, and then freely snipe clear targets. Abraham and I each lead 2 people to launch a left and right assault, quickly insert, and eliminate the enemy's living power. OODA. Observation, decision-making, and execution loop. Once OODA is in a cut-off state and the attacking side can continue to suppress the situation, the direction of a small-scale battle is already determined. And Ahmed and Ika play the role of continuous suppression, with bullets spewing out from their barrels repeatedly hitting the enemy's 7-inch territory. As long as the enemy tries to organize a counterattack or observe, they need to kill the relatively clear enemies in a timely manner. This can keep the enemy in a situation where they are unable to obtain intelligence and make decisions. Generally speaking, in this situation, the enemy is forced to enter the defense rhythm, trying to delay time by finding cover or retreating into buildings in order to obtain reconnaissance opportunities. However, a group of refugees from the opposite area are reporting to the team for warmth, and no one can say what funny actions the mob will make. This type of attack is naturally very stable and feasible, and everyone will not have any different opinions. They will only discuss the details of this tactical arrangement. Alright, let's take action. It's 8.40 now. If the mission is not completed after 9.30, we'll have to evacuate the battlefield. A few people have limited ammunition to carry, and if they delay for too long and are surrounded by the enemy, it is basically a situation where they will definitely die. Okay. Yes. Action begins. A group of agile individuals were divided into 3 small groups, moving forward at high speed with a low posture and extremely low sound. Night is the best disguise, as the group approached the door smoothly. Sean gestured and Ahmed immediately carried the M24 behind him, then climbed up the roof with his hands and feet along the drainage pipe at the door. At this moment, an armed man holding an AK happened to be sleeping soundly in the corner. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Rapid Suppression. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Rapid Suppression. Ahmed cautiously moved over, extending his hands from behind, one hand around the opponent's neck, the other hand clasped and tightened with force for nearly 10 seconds. Then, he released his hands and grabbed the opponent's head, forcefully breaking and rubbing, and the guy fell asleep forever. There's no other way, I don't even have a usable dagger in my hand for the time being. I can only use naked twisting to ensure that the other person enters deeper sleep, unable to transmit information, and then twist the other person's neck. This is a clumsy method in an empty-handed state, but the effect is still good. The other person is very cooperative and shows no resistance throughout the process. After completing these tasks, he set up the M24 and began observing the internal situation of the factory through the M3 sight. There are many people in the factory, as if preparing to go out and do something. The situation is not good, it's just a collision. Ahmed's heart skipped a beat and he gestured to Sean to inquire. Sean's face was gloomy and uncertain when he saw the gesture, and now the arrow was on the line. If he retreated, the other party would definitely strengthen their guard when they found the body. It would not be easy to launch a surprise attack in the future, and the landing place was imminent. Finding such a perfect factory would not be easy, but if he wanted to continue the mission, he would only have to launch a strong attack. He immediately thought about the pros and cons and made a decision in his heart. He gestured back to Ahmed a few times. Strong attack, occupy high ground, and freely snipe clear targets. Abraham, lead the right side assault of number 1 and number 2, and organize the assault shooting according to the predetermined direction. Please pay attention to the firing principle. You are responsible for the southwest area of the factory, number 1 and number 2 are responsible for the central area, and I and number 3 and number 4 are responsible for the rest of the area. If there is a blank space in any area and support other areas, choose the target to fire in the order of the three of you. Ika, find the sniper point on your own, and freely snipe and kill the target. Understand? Sean quickly issued a strong attack order. Understood. Okay, prepare for a strong attack. Sean charged fiercely towards the big iron gate, knocking it open and quickly charging in with the two people behind him. Although this type of target selection is somewhat rigid, the current personnel quality is not uniform, and he dare not have too high requirements. Open space operations cannot quickly select targets based on the principle of proximity and responsibility interval strategy like CQB operations. This arrangement can ensure that firepower is not wasted as much as possible. Sean and others have clear division of labor and are each conducting the first round of suppressive shooting on each area. The guys in the factory fell into chaos for a moment, and the sudden attack left them in a state of confusion, making it temporarily impossible to organize an effective counterattack. Starting from the first gunshot, Ahmed and Ika each selected their own targets for precise sniping, with 8 people pressing down on more than 20 people, which was more than enough. In special operations, this tactic is called rapid suppression, which aims to cut off the enemy's OODA in the first time, that is, to cut off the enemy's observation, decision-making, and execution cycle. The fact proves that these refugees who huddled together for warmth have been able to occupy this place for so long, which is something. The enemies who have been cut off from OODA are currently completely unable to obtain information and are in an awkward situation of being unable to make decisions. They are forced to enter a defensive rhythm, and there are also some sober guys trying to reorganize personnel to defend, cover, and obtain reconnaissance opportunities. Obviously, Sean and Abraham would not give them a chance. This is wishful thinking. Number 3, Number 4, grenades. Received. Number 1, Number 2, grenades. Received. The firepower density of the 6-person formation briefly decreased, and Sean and Abraham continued to fire short shots with guns. However, the two of them had excellent skills. Sean's rifle produced the same suppression effect as 3 rifles, while Abraham remained resolute on the other side. Although they were slightly inferior to Sean, they also had a complementary suppression effect. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Boom. 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 4 hand grenades flew into their respective areas and exploded with a loud bang. The enemy became even more chaotic, and OODA could not be established at all. The 6-person team began to continuously suppress and advance from both sides, and Ahmed cooperated with Ika to call out one by one in the high rear, shooting one by one and continuing to harvest. For 2 consecutive periods of OODA vacuum, Sean and his team of 8 have harvested nearly 10 lives. According to Ahmed's intelligence, there are still about 10 people on the enemy side. Although Sean and Abraham were cooperating for the first time, the cooperation between the two sides is quite good, especially Abraham. This guy seems to be a hot-tempered rascal, but he is also worthy of the name of a warrior. He is meticulous in arranging and executing Sean's orders, and he is not at all as dissatisfied as he was at the beginning. The biggest difference between a mob without effective command and a slaughtered pig or sheep who cannot establish OODA may be their ability to walk on two legs. The battle only lasted for about 15 minutes from the beginning until now, officially announcing its end, and the enemy did not launch an effective counterattack throughout the entire process. Blood on the ground converges into a stream, limbs and arms scattered haphazardly on the ground. The ground and walls are covered in bullet marks, and the air is filled with the smell of gunpowder. Since it was a battle, dead people were inevitable. Even if the enemy did not counterattack effectively, the team still had 2 members reduced. Abraham stood beside his deceased comrades with a solemn expression, while Ahmed silently hugged M24 and stood on the side. Sean walked over and patted his shoulder, saying, "Please be sorry, buddy. I will give you more money and arrange their affairs properly. Bastard, it's all because of you, Cliff, and Karba that they died." IKA rushed forward with red eyes, picking up Sean's collar. Sean pushed it out and said, "When you take on this mission, you should be mentally prepared. Soldiers should always have the awareness of death, otherwise why don't you go home and farm?" Sean's words were very cruel and straightforward, but that's the truth. Abraham didn't argue much, but said in a hoarse voice, "Prepare the money, I will come to see you tomorrow." Abraham, with his remaining comrades, lifted the bodies of his deceased comrades and left, their backs appearing somewhat bleak in the darkness. They are a group of mercenaries who fight for money, but they are also human beings. The friendship forged through life and death battles together is incomprehensible to outsiders. Detected host update base, weapons and equipment from the old location will be automatically recycled and placed in the warehouse tomorrow. Hearing the sound of the system, Sean was too lazy to pay attention. After all, currently there is not much fun. To become a big army of fire merchants, there is a long way to go. P.S. The new book set sail, with a lot of support. I'm ready. End of this chapter.